this may be pretty quick. This may be stuff but hopefully we can have some good discussion afterwards. Wait. All right, so we're gonna do some basic club treasurer training. This is based on my experience, the Lions Club International training for club treasurer, and the uh, Lions University training for club treasurer, among other things. So, um, if I don't jack you, some of this is going to be repeat of last night and last week's sessions, but it's okay. So tonight we're going to look at treasurer responsibilities, club accounts and budgets. Talk a little bit about member dues, making payments, financial policies for your club, and financial records. So, treasurer should try to attend all club and board meetings. If your club has a board, you're involved in preparing the budgets for the club. You're involved in setting the annuals. You don't set them, the board sets them, and the board also approves the budget or the club, both of those. You make payments on behalf of the club, maintain the club financial records, and report financial information to the club and board. And not only do you set annual dues, but normally it depends on the role between the treasurer and the secretary, but usually collecting dues falls to the treasurer. And filing the dreaded taxes. Okay, this has been discussed quite a bit before, but Lions Club International requires, this is one of the things that you probably may have heard of your club your way. There's a lot of things that your club is free to do however they want. The club accounts is not one of them. You are required to have an administrative account. Some clubs call it their, I'm trying to think, that it's where your money for your admin fees, your dues are collected there. Funds used for the internal running of the club, PO box, advertising, whatever you may use that, you collect from dues. 50-50 drawings at your club meetings. That type of thing is where you get this money from. Plus, you can do our club and a fair amount of clubs. You can get jobs basically for your club members. Our job that we primarily raise funds for is we work at a gun show. We help provide door security. So we're paid by the gun show people to be there. Since we are not doing this as a fundraiser public event, we can put this money in our admin fund. Anyway, tail twisting, etc. Your expenses that are paid out of it are your dues, district dues, printing, postage, other costs. Like I said, we have a post office box. You can transfer money from your administrative account to your activity. That's the other account. But you cannot transfer it the other way around. And I'll explain that in a sec. Activities. So it's usually public projects and grants. If your club gives out, you want to call them grants or gifts to other organizations, help for people, that type of thing. The income comes from public fundraising projects. Your income, in theory, could come from a donation, but we'll talk about that in a little while. There are some issues with that. The direct costs of fundraising. So in other words, our biggest fundraiser is a rifle raffle. The cost of printing the raffle tickets can come out of the admin account. If you did some advertising for your fundraiser, that type of thing, those things can be paid for out of your admin account. Cannot be used to benefit any club member or any business related to club members. So you've got to be really careful. You can certainly use a business that is run by a club member for stuff, but you've got to be careful that you're not favoring them. In other words, you probably should look at getting a couple estimates for whatever you're using them for. You cannot, unfortunately, a club member needs some glasses. You cannot use public funds to provide for that club member. And you cannot transfer this into administrative. You cannot use this money for things like paying club dues and things like that. This is just a repeat of that. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, again, that's just a repeat. Lions Club International recommends that you have 2 separate bank accounts, but you don't necessarily have to do that because of cost of it and hassles and getting signees on both accounts. My club has 1 bank account, but we account for everything sort of as separate accounts. So when we write a check for member dues, I make sure that that's accounted for into the admin account. So I actually have it all separated so I can have show the admin expenses versus the fundraising expenses or fundraising money. Everybody, any questions on that stuff?
I'm pretty sure my thought on this is correct, but I just want to kind of put it out there for a double check. Club recruitment is not allowed under the charity or how did you call it? The charity account or the project account?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's admin.
Yeah.
So you would have to use admin money for like Facebook ads if that's what you're
right,
doing, or something along those lines.
Newspaper ads, yeah, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. A lot of clubs don't have a budget, and I highly, highly, highly recommend that you use budgets. Once you've got them set up, you can kind of keep them rolling. But there's a lot of reasons. It's if you have a finance committee, then or a budget committee, they will be the first pass. Usually the treasurer would put it together based on what we did last year. Plus any comments that, members may say, oh, I think we should give money to this charity or take up this project and things that go into your budget. So usually the treasurer, initiates the process of creating a budget based off of your last year. If you're starting from scratch, that's really what you have to do. You have to look at where all your expenses were and create a budget. And we have 2 budgets. You want to do a budget for both your admin and for your activities. So, we'll look at what we do here in a bit. There should be, but I just said that. Budgets are always a guideline. They're not a set in stone. If you budget $3,000 to cover sight and hearing for your club, in other words, you're going to say you're going to spend $3,000 on hearing aids and eyeglasses for people. You have a year where there's a desperate need, and all of a sudden you don't necessarily have to just quit at $3,000. You can readjust your budgets. The money would have to come from somewhere else to cover that, but you can certainly tweak your budget as you go. A lot of times you don't spend nearly as much on that category as you think you might. So some of them are unpredictable. Sight and hearing is an unpredictable one. Then you can look at oh, we've got excess money, maybe we'll do something else with it. I think the budget, this is my opinion, um, the budget reports are one of the more important reports that you should be doing as a treasurer. In other words, you should be doing a report that's saying, okay, for site and hearing, we budgeted $2,000 so far this year. We've spent 500. Those type of reports where you show what you're doing, where you're at with your budgets. Any questions on budgets?
So this is actually something that I'm probably gonna be the one talking a lot, so I apologize in advance to everyone else. So this has been a little bit of a point of contention for me since I came on. We do not, and as long as I've been involved, which is only 6 or 7 years now, we've never had a budget. I'm sure our club at one point had one. I would appreciate it if anyone could send me a template that they use, even if it's just your local club budget, just so I have something to work off of. I mean, I know it's going to be, relative to my club and our activities and our fundraising efforts, etc. But just something that I can present would be immensely appreciated.
I'd be glad to do that. The other advantage of budgets, it isn't here when we get to paying bills and paying things. Most, you can have it in your bylaws where everything that you write a check for should be approved by either your board of directors or the full club, the board of directors if you have one. The one advantage, the budgets I don't have in here, is that the board of directors would approve the budget. So reoccurring items that are approved in the board by the board of directors, such as dues or they're reoccurring items, paying your post office box once a year. Technically, if it's in your budget, it's been approved by the board of directors, the treasurer can write a check for that without individually approving the checks. So it does speed up the process a little bit that's one little positive of doing a budget, because technically under the bylaws of the sample club bylaws, the board of directors would have to approve any check that you write, any distribution of funds. So that's one way to push that. So right now, international dues, we're in the process of it being raised over the next few years. At this point in time, in January, you were billed $23 per member. The old rate was $21.50. It'll go up again in July, I believe. $2 in July to $24 a member, and there's one more raise next year, I believe. And hopefully that'll be it for a while. There are many membership types. I'm not going to list them all here. I'll give you some resources to find them, but there are the biggest one related to discounting is family membership, and they've got to be family members of the same club living in the same household. So your adult children that belong to your club but live somewhere else, technically they don't qualify as a family membership. Family members the second member gets half off international dues. This gets complicated because you don't get half off district dues. And we'll talk about club dues, and you may or may not, depending on your club, get something off for the second family member. But that's the biggest discount there are. Life memberships. I think you got to be a member for 20 years. Or if you're over 65, it's less than that. But anyway, it's like a 300. Usually it's an honorary thing. You got a long-term member in your club. You might want to do an honorary deal by paying for a life membership for that person. The district does honor life memberships, so there would be no district dues for And they, for quite a while, because they were encouraging pandemic time, there was no entrance fee. Now it's back in place. So when you get a new member, you'll pay a one-time $35 new member fee. And you're getting all this information because you as a treasurer are the one that's going to get the bill. So you want to make sure you look it over and make sure everything's right. No family membership and life memberships are zero. There are a bunch of different levels of memberships. Most of them don't involve any discounts in money, but there are a variety of membership types. And then, back up. I didn't have anything else. So your club can, admin money has got to come from somewhere. You can't do enough tail twisting. If you haven't got like a project like we do, it's not a project, it's a outside source of income, then you need some money in your admin account to cover stuff. So typically you will add on something to your dues. Not all clubs do that, and some clubs have enough money that they don't do that. But I would recommend that if you need some money, that's one way to get it. So you take your 46 a year plus 25 a year plus $5 or something from your club. That is one way to build your administrative fund.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Just real quick. I mean, you can have fundraisers within the club.
Yeah.
One of the things that our club does every year, we do a pie auction, and everybody brings a pie in and then you auction it off. All that's admin dues. So you can do things within the club to increase your admin dues. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We sell hats or baseball caps. They're really nicely done, and a member donates them, and we sell them for $15 a pop, and that helps a little bit.
So we have the advantage of, we've been doing this gun show for years. It brings in way more money than we need for our administrative. So we do some stuff with that. With, for example, new members, we cover the $35 our club does because we have that money. So, if you got a little administrative funds you can do, we typically will give them a vest. We give them a vest and don't charge it for, give them a hat and don't charge for. So that's how we have that little excess money and use it to encourage memberships, because sometimes it's tough. Oh, we want to be a member, and okay, our dues currently are $84 a year. Oh, by the way, you got to pay another $35, and oh, you want a hat? It's another so and so. So we've got that nice little fund we can do that with.
Can we really quick go around the room and just tell what each other's dues are? I'd be really curious to know.
Sure. Like I said, ours are 84.
Shoto's is 80 this year, up from 75 last year.
So
Ennis just raised ours to 75. They were 68 last year.
Yeah, Sunrise is 85 and 105 for the new members.
Sunburst is $50.
Yep. So how do you?
We do so much other things like Mike does with the gun show. We have so much admin funds that we just couldn't see making everybody pay dues like that. So our admin fund, it has plenty of cash in it. So it's $50 a member, period, cut and dried.
Thank
All
you.
right. So one of the other duties is you got the checkbook. Excuse me. So things out of the administrative, we've discussed this before: postage, printing. We publish a club membership booklet, little booklet with everybody's names, addresses, emails in it. Your dues from LCI and your dues from this district. Oh, by the way, when you get a new member, it is prorated at the time of year they join. And I forget exactly what the proration is, but when you have a new member join half a year, you only pay half a year to LCI. You don't have to pay out whole year or anything. And then your activities expenses related to fundraising. And these can be expenses to your public projects too. We take care of a park here in Lions Park. We no longer own it. We did it at the city many years ago, but we work in it every year. And if we've got expenses related to that, that can come out of your activity because it's a public project. The public is benefiting from us painting our gazebos and things. So you can take money out of the activity for stuff like that because the public is benefiting. That's what I discussed. Payments may require a vote of the board. Some clubs allow treasurer to issue payments for budgeted items as long as they do not exceed the budget. So our club works that way. So when I go and get my bill for district dues, I don't have to go to the club or the board and say, I got to pay this. It's so much dollars. Can I write a check? I can go ahead and pay it because we have a budget. All right. Any questions up to there? So, financial reports. This is my 2 cents worth on this. I actually use Quicken. And I think you do too, Mike, for your club. I've got QuickBooks.
Yeah,
I have a background in business or not in business, but I have a degree in business and business accounting, all that good crap. And I have found that when you issue the standard business reports that, that's what we get for the district, where you get a balance sheet and a
P&L and
most people
account
have
sheet.
Even people with financial backgrounds, that kind of is like gobbledygook to most people. Doesn't mean a lot. If you're really into business background, yeah, it does. It has meaning. There are meanings to it, but typically people want to know in your club, your Lions members want to know how much money we got, what do we spend it on, how much money, what do we write checks to, and things like that. So I use Quicken because it's simpler and I can produce a budget with it and budget reports. But you can use spreadsheets. A lot of clubs use spreadsheets because they get passed on.
The books that I inherited literally came from a ledger, paper and pencil ledger that goes back about 60 years.
Okay.
That works too.
Yeah, that works too.
Hard to make reports with it, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, we just went, we've been with QuickBooks. And we just updated that so that the accountant and myself, if they need to review where we're at or to put together our taxes, they have access online. We just did that this year.
Okay, yeah, that's a nice feature of QuickBooks.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, we're going to talk about this later. Does your club generate more than $50,000 of income?
Yes.
Okay. That becomes important.
You have other as a question mark. What I use for our club is Wave Accounting, waveapps.com. Highly recommend. It's free. Well, it was free. They're doing a freemium model now, but it's really good.
Oh, great. I'll have to look at that. Yes, keeping all this paperwork somewhere, if you don't have a clubhouse and things like that, is important. I think the federal government still, since we're considered even nonprofits, require 7 years for most documents. The one nice thing about using electronic stuff is, I've got years and years worth of electronic. We've been using Quicken forever, so I've got years and years worth of financial reports, budgets, and everything else. Okay. True for anyone? Okay. So the basic, um, we get our, nowadays the LCI, or now supposedly LI, Lions International. You have to go online. You typically go online. I think they've given up mailing out statements. I think they do everything by email, and then you go get them. I don't know. Is anybody still getting paper? I don't think you get paper statements anymore.
No,
So, as I said, I do a report. We meet twice a month. I do a report at every meeting on how we're doing on the budget, what checks I wrote. Yeah, I don't do the P&Ls and the balance sheets, and cash flow is basically, what money I spent. So, check register report is basically the same thing. This is what we deposited. This is what we spent. An annual audit. This is the thing that I'm fighting my club for years. I'm saying you guys need to have an audit. You need to do a brief, get a small committee together and audit the books. Not super formal, not anything else, and I can't get them to do it. It's, and then of course, tax filing, depending on how much income your club has. And I know Steve, with the pool, that probably is pretty more
Expensive.
intensive.
We have employees and all sorts of fun stuff. Yeah.
So you've got a lot more complicated than most clubs do. Taxes. So, the IRS, the problem we have is, I've been looking up clubs around the state, and there are a lot of clubs that haven't filed taxes for years. The problem is that your club, then, if you don't file taxes for 3 years, your club loses its nonprofit status with the IRS. Once you lose your nonprofit status, getting it back is a pain in the butt, to put it mildly. Columbia Falls decided they wanted to do some stuff and discovered that they had lost their nonprofit status. You have to file, multiple years worth of paperwork, all your expenses, your everything else. You got to show, that you're basically a nonprofit. They just don't hand it back to you. So that I asked about the 50,000. The federal government, if your club has a income, so money incoming both accounts, of less than $50,000, you can file an N990N, which is a postcard. It's super simple. You don't need an accountant. It doesn't take this link. I shouldn't have checked it. It doesn't take it to the right site anymore. So here's what I was talking about. You can double check on your tax exempt organization status. You can do it by name. You can do it by EIN if you've got it. Find out if your club is currently okay with this. And then here's the 990N. as you get more money, there are certain levels. So that from 50 to, I believe it's 100, I don't know off the top of my head, you've got to file a 990 EZ. This is where you start getting into having an accountant.
I think it's gross revenue under 250, if I remember correctly.
It
For
might
the
be,
easy,
yeah.
yeah, or it was at least.
Yeah, I think it still is. I don't remember the numbers anymore. So I'm just gonna, since our club takes in less than 50,000 annually, we file an N990 in. It's a piece of cake. They do have a new. They do have a new sign-in system. Where you've got to this either login.gov or IDB, and you've got to create an account for it, but it's pretty straightforward. It just it's that way to ID. Unfortunately I stupidly filed we're on a different year, and I stupidly filed my taxes before this, and I should have waited to show you guys. Of course, it's got of course. Multi-factor authentication. So basically, I've already filed. Our club voted many years ago. Our year is calendar for our club's financial stuff. Most clubs run the same as the international year, July through June. But anyway, I've already filed. Basically, if you do a new filing, which I can't do because we've only had one, but it's going to tell me that I can't do it. But anyway, there's two questions. Question one is your organization still active? Yes. Did you make less than $50,000 a year? Yes. File. So there's really no excuse for not doing this if your club has been doing it and then you qualify. Like I said, if you go over that, you're in land of where you probably want a tax professional. Montana does not tax nonprofits, and we'll discuss the fine details of nonprofits. But your club is highly recommended that you be a nonprofit corporation in Montana. It's really simple process. If it hasn't been done, this club, we kept it up. It costs $20 a year. Although this year they waived it as a big tax savings for all the companies, but it's pretty simple online filing thing to get it set up. And actually, if your club has not been doing this, one of the big reasons for being a nonprofit corporation in the state of Montana, number one, is that you don't have to pay any taxes in Montana technically. Number two is that your club is a corporation, so you have the corporation protection in lawsuits. So in a lawsuit, if you didn't keep up your Montana filing and you were a corporation, someone could sue your club and sue every member in your club and go after everyone's assets. Whereas you're a corporation, they can only sue the corporation. So one of the big reasons for that is pretty straightforward. If you need to renew, or hey, I'm not renew, but if you need to set it up again, you have to basically have, and I'm working off the top of my head, but you have to give me your bylaws. You have to have a vote that your club is a nonprofit. You list all your, when you do the state one, you go in and you list all your officers, board members, things like that. And it's a $20 filing fee. Like,
And the Secretary of State's office is really helpful. They'll
Yes,
walk
they
you
are.
through it if you have any questions.
and so if for some reason your club hasn't been doing that, it's pretty simple. It's not like the IRS. They will gladly help you get it set back up. Because it, like I said, it does provide a lawsuit protection for your club. Number one, it's one of the biggies for being a nonprofit corporation with the state. Any questions so far? We'll get into the 990 and we'll discuss the 501c4 C3 thing here in a minute. So good accounting practice, basically. All money must be deposited. The board's got to approve the bank. Think this is a recommendation from Lias, although we do have a debit card that's hooked to our account because it's becoming more common. It's way easier to pay your international dues. You can pay them both by check but you can do it online. We're going to do that because I have a payment to make. We'll go ahead and do that. Again, all disbursements are in the authority of the board. Receipts should be itemized. And if somebody comes to the treasurer and says, "Oh, I bought a bunch of pencils for the club to give out," and my response is, "Receipt, please." Like I said, you got to retain the records for 7 years. Bonding. So what bonding is, it's basically an insurance policy. Bonding, our club has a bond, and the Bonds Act technically not just for the treasurer, it's for any potential absconding of funds, protecting basically the funds of the club. And it costs us a whopping $100 a year. So I highly recommend that your club get bonding.
Does the club pay for that?
Yeah, the club pays for it. We just went through a local insurance agency that actually the club is bonded, not me. So it protects all our, somebody from the rifle raffle decides to put some of the money in their pocket instead of back in the club. It protects for things like that. I read this statistic somewhere that the biggest place where money is, anybody that deals with cash money, one of the biggest places it's stolen from is nonprofit organizations. You hear every once in a while, the person in charge of the money for the Little League baseball absconded with the funds. I highly recommend like I said, it costs us, our club, $100 a year, and we're actually protected both on our debit card and our checking account. Again, audits, for that reason, basically, I know that everybody they say, "Oh, we trust you." I still want them to audit, make sure everything looks good. And a rule from international is that your club should not create any indebtedness. They basically say long term. In other words, you want a new clubhouse, but you're going to borrow money to do it, or you want to build a statue downtown, but you want to borrow money to do it. We don't do things that way in Lions. We go out and fundraise and get it for it. We don't. There was a big ruckus here in town in Kalispell. The Elks Club, some of their board members decided they needed to do building improvements, so they just went out and borrowed money without the approval of the club. It was a big to do. So that's why we don't do that kind of thing. Watch your carryover. We have some because we have some expenses that slide over, but we try hard to spend all of our activity money every year. Because the trouble is you just carry it over, and all of a sudden you've got $20,000 that's public money that really the public should be benefiting from that. That's why you sold raffle tickets and did all this other work to raise money. Okay, I'm going to jump to, I looked this up today because I was just curious. Because most clubs do, how many clubs do a raffle? Everybody?
Yep.
Yeah. So raffles. The one thing that some clubs got to be careful with in Montana, it's not required to get a license. Nonprofits, if you want to sell your raffle tickets online, you've got to register with it says department, but I think I'm not sure which department.
Probably the revenue department.
Yeah. But you cannot use, in Montana, you cannot use credit cards for raffle tickets. Because you go try to buy a lottery ticket with a credit card, it's illegal in Montana to use credit cards for any kind of raffle tickets or things like that.
No, you can now buy lottery tickets with a credit card.
Credit card or debit card?
Debit card, but not a credit card.
Well, they do them here at the Mark. Credit card.
But they're not legal.
Well, they say you are. It is.
Okay.
So, unless that's a new change, I don't know.
I can't buy one here in Kalispell with a credit card.
And maybe I'm wrong, but I could have sworn they said credit card. So,
Okay. You can use a debit card, but then that gets tricky. Making sure you're not doing. And you can actually sell them to people outside the state of Montana. As long as it's legal in that jurisdiction. Now, it says raffle may be held in nonprofit, which is based on the payment of membership dues or purchase off a fundraising event. Again, the bylaws of, I should have taken that out. The bylaws of, I downloaded this today. The bylaws of your club say you can't do that. So, again, this is an important deal. Raffle sponsors do not have to have the prizes in hand before the sale of tickets start. So that permits basically 50-50 raffles. If you do a 50-50 raffle with the public, no limit on the value. And that contradicts this a little, but can only be charitable purposes or paid for the prizes. So that's just a repeat of that. Well, thanks for that, Steve. I thought I had a slide in here discussing, and I skipped over it. So I'll jump back to all the Lions clubs are, by their charter, what's considered a 501c4, which means you're a not-for-profit organization, but people cannot deduct money on their taxes for gifts to your club directly. Everybody got that? 501c4. Your club can form, and I know several clubs in Montana, multi-clubs have a separate 501c3, which is a nonprofit charitable organization where people give you money or gifts of other types, and they can deduct those from your taxes.
So Mike, I got a question for you if I can. Um, for years and years, we were always told that we were a 501c3. Then I don't know when it happened, but I know that we checked recently and they said, oh, you're a 501c4. So I went online and I just looked up what's the difference between the 501c3 and a 501c4. And the most prevalent thing they brought up is that a 501c4 can make political donations. And I went, we don't really want to even
No.
be in that class.
In the Lions International bylaws, that's a no-no. So
I understand that, but then why are we a 501c4 if that's in the 501c4 identity?
So
Because
if
that's- That's the
Sorry,
way
go ahead.
Lions Clubs International was formed. So we've got a parent organization, then we've got all these organizations under Lions Club International, and we were formed as a 501c4, which is
subordinate.
yes.
So 501c4 doesn't apply just to Lions.
No,
It applies to everything else out there. And so just because there's a law that says some other company that's a 501c4 can do a political thing, we can't, because our bylaw says we can't, even though the guidelines for a C4 says you can.
What's
the only thing you
what's
need
the
to be
difference
careful
if
of,
you're-
it doesn't matter. It's not your business if somebody gives you a donation and deducts it from their taxes. That's their side
That's
of it.
between them and the IRS.
Yes, but
Yes.
you do need to be careful of doing things like giving them a receipt that says tax deductible on it or something like that. And we used to do some stuff. We did a walk for diabetes here, and we were going after businesses to give us donations, and we needed a 501c3 to be able to them to be tax deductible. So we partnered with another with the foundation at the hospital, basically, to run the money through them. So that way we could give out legitimate 501c3 tax deductible. When somebody gave us $5,000, they wanted to deduct it from their taxes. The other thing is your club can do on its own a 501c3. You can't change. You're always going to be a 501c4, but you can form a 501c3 with your club. You can use the same board members, the same officers, and it's gotten easier. It can be done online, but it's a little still complicated. It used to take a lawyer to do it. Now, in theory, you can do it without a lawyer.
We did it here in Shoto in 2022, and it took about 3 weeks to get our letter from time that I filed the paperwork online to
Yep.
the 930 easy, or I can't even remember the number now, but it's something like that.
Yeah, so it's much easier. It used to be really difficult. It's gotten much easier to form that. So if your club really needs, somebody says, man, my dad loved Lions and he passed away and I've got $1 million to give you. You want to become a 501c3 for that type of thing.
We just got a $20,000 check from a guy because $10,000 from him and 10 from his company because we had the 501c3 eligible.
Yep.
So it's it can be worth it.
Oh yeah, but the only thing you got to be careful as a club is make sure that your raffle tickets. One of the things that I read was your raffle ticket don't say donation on it.
Right.
Things like nobody's going to bust you. In fact, the fact that there are clubs that lost their nonprofit status probably 20 years ago, and nobody's ever gone after them, but they could.
And we should do the right thing.
And the IRS isn't going to spend its time looking for Lions clubs, but if they did, all of a sudden, everything you do is taxable if you have not kept your status up. So just a word of caution there.
Yeah. I have to say that it's awful murky. A lot of time we were dealing with a bank and they just said, we checked into it. You're not listed as a 501c3. So we're going to make our donation different because, of course, they wanted it to be tax deductible.
Right.
And and I think that, I don't know, in time things have changed a little bit, and so now, and that's what Lions kind of said was what you said. You can set up a 501c3 inside your club or parallel to your
Right,
club.
parallel club. Yep.
Yeah, and then do your deductible actions through that.
And again, you can partner. So we did this diabetes walk for quite a few years, and we actually gave some of the money to the organization anyway. So they were where all the money went, and then they gave us, they wrote a check to us for funds, the part of the funds raised that we gave to other places. So there's ways to do it.
It's
Just
worth noting that you shouldn't try to change your club to from a C4 to a C3. You're
But you
just
can't.
wasting your time. I mean, you can file the paper with the IRS. They'll come back and say, no, you're wrong. You're a C4. And so you've just spent all this time trying to do this. And that happened to our club a few years ago. So
Yeah, you've got to do it as a separate. You
Yeah.
can basically do it. It's a separate organization, but it has all the same people in it. So anyway, some other guidelines. Board of
But
directors.
I
Yes.
do have a question
Yeah.
going back to the carryover money. Um, are there ramifications tax-wise if you get too much money built up in an account?
Not really that I'm aware of. You might have that's a question for your account, but not really because it's not income. I just think it's really bad form because you're going out to public and say, give us money because we're doing all this great stuff, and then you're just sitting with money in the bank account.
if I can share an anecdote real quick, this is a specific story for regards to a 501c3. There's a guy on YouTube. He has a big following, millions of subscribers on his YouTube channel. He started a foundation to benefit something like the multiple sclerosis or one of these kind of diseases that his mom died of it, and it people die early. They started the foundation about 7 years ago. Year after year after year, they'd hold these fundraisers. They'd raise, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars every year, and they sat on it. And this is a 501c3, so that all gets reported to the IRS, and it's public knowledge when it's a C3. C4s are not. Another big distinction between C3s and C4s. But another YouTube creator found out about this and said, hey, what the hell? Why are you sitting on all this money? We donated this money because it's supposed to go towards the research of this disease. There's not a double check with your CPA or your accountant or whatever. I don't believe that there's any ramification like legally or tax wise, but it's poor form. It's really poor form to be sitting on that money when it's meant to be used for charitable works.
Okay. Yeah,
Especially-
we are a C3, so it must have been set up years and years ago. But yeah, I get a little nervous because I think they're trying to hold money back in case there's an emergency that they
I mean,
can help.
There's nothing wrong with setting up like our pool. We've got enough funds to cover payroll, in case there's an emergency. That's one thing. It's entirely different to just have unallocated funds, but that's earmarked. It's set aside for this specific thing. It's a whole different thing to just have money hanging out unallocated, no purpose for it.
One of the things
Ooh.
one of the things you can do for fold over money is if you have a need for it, let's say over a couple of years, you want to purchase some new play equipment for the park. Okay. And obviously you're not going to get a loan for it because you're not going to get a loan. LCIF is not going to give you money just to upgrade the park. But that money is earmarked for that. So you can have that money fold over from year to year to year until you get that money because you have it earmarked for a charitable thing for the community. Okay. But the whole object is like everybody is saying, you don't want to sit on it just to sit on it. It's morally wrong.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
as long as there's a need for it.
And so,
All right. My other question I have heard is that um, in a year or so, the federal government is going to try and figure out how to come after these nonprofits. Is that, have you heard anything about that?
According to who and what are they going to do by coming after nonprofits?
Well, just to tax you.
That's, I mean, a 501c4, a 501c3, that's the entire point of the entire 501 block of the IRS code is to have nonprofits. It would affect thousands upon thousands, tens and 20, hundreds of thousands of entities that are not for profit, 501c3, 527, 509 entities. Unless you have a specific piece of tax code that says that they're going to switch the tax code around, it's not real. I mean,
Okay.
fundamentally, that's just not real.
Okay, well, it's somebody that's on the board in Helena. That's what they're catching wind of. So I'm like,
I mean,
and
again, ask them to provide you. I mean, if you find proof of that, please send it out because that will affect all of us. Like, we need to prepare for that right now.
yeah,
I pay attention to these things pretty closely. I serve on a number of boards. That's
and
fear factoring.
The
biggest-
reason why companies give money to C3s and C4s, specifically threes, is so they can reduce their profit. The IRS can only tax profit. If you're a non-profit, they've got nothing to tax because everything is non-profit.
okay,
and
So that's the thing to remember.
and the other side of 501c3s as part of 501c3 is you have to file public reports on where you're spending your money, where you're getting your money. So it's out there. You can pretty much look up any 501c3 and see their public report. So it would be hard, although I'm sure there are plenty of them that probably maybe questionable stuff. They take a pretty good look at the big ones, the big nonprofits that, to make sure that they're really are nonprofits and things like that. So but I don't think there's any initiative to go after little stuff.
okay,
Well, and I mean, it would impact like Red Cross, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all these organizations. Like, it just, yeah, I'd love if that is something coming down. I'd love to see the proof of that,
okay.
evidence of it.
It's something that my son passed along to me, and he's on the board for the Helena Youth Soccer.
Yeah.
And he said they don't even have that much money, but it's something they're being made aware of. So yeah, it could happen. I don't know how they would do it, but yeah, that's all I know. But I'm kind of watching. I asked at our bank, they hadn't heard anything about it. So yeah,
At this stage of the game, I wouldn't worry a bit about it.
okay.
So anyway,
Because if the IRS ever tries to do that, do you know how many big corporations would go after it?
Oh, yeah,
interesting.
good point.
All right. So back just some quick guidelines. We have a checking account that has 2 signature lines on it. Just for some protection. Technically, I was in the banking industry, and it's really not enforceable. The banks, it's a banking, there's no thing that says they have to. But if you have a check with 2 signature lines and you send it in with 1 signature, the bank will most likely cash it anyway. But it's a good control to have.
Yeah,
Well,
our bank here in Ennis, which Ennis is a small town, but last year that wouldn't have been an issue. This year I had to hunt down somebody to get a second signature.
Yeah.
So they're watching it more carefully now.
Okay. Bonding, again, it's really an insurance, and it's pretty cheap, for what kind of coverage you get. So again, auditing, again, payments are on the authority of the board, but may pre-authorize paying expenses for fixed billings. Again, you cannot create a debt. All right, let's get rid of this.
Does invoicing, like, you know, our club with the pool, it's operated directly from our club. Putting things on account, like our pool manager goes to Ace and puts things on account, and I get the monthly statement or the monthly bill for it. Is that the same thing as indebtedness?
No, I would
Okay.
not. No, that's short term.
Okay.
They're talking about any kind of long term
Like mortgages or something like that? Okay.
mortgages. Yes.
Yeah, we do the same thing. People they go put things on account and then I get the bill.
We did
You
the
better
same thing.
have a receipt from whoever put it on account first.
That's a good
before you
point.
pay the bill,
Oh, you
point.
bet we do. Yeah.
okay?
I don't, but that's a really, really good point.
Right. You know, they put something on account, they bring me the receipt right off the bat so that I know what's coming.
Yep.
All right. And so I can keep account of it. No receipt. Well, the account's gonna get paid, but then I'd close it, you know, so nobody can use it because they're abusing it. And I make that very clear on anything we have an account on. You use it for, I don't care what, you better bring me the receipt.
The other thing that we do, well, because our local hardware store, they get, they're always going for parts or they need this or because we do maintain our local park as well. And so they will, anytime anyone makes a purchase, automatically I get an email with itemized list of what they purchased.
As long as you've got the receipt.
Yep. And that works nice because sometimes it's hard to track down those receipts. So, but
Yep.
we have 2 places we do business with now that automatically send that to me.
And let me tell you, if somebody uses it and doesn't bring you the receipt, you stand up there for the club and say, I have the authority to close this account. If you don't start bringing me receipts, and you'd be surprised how fast. Oh, here it is. I forgot about it. It was in my wallet.
one thing.
Yeah.
One thing I would, if you've got, and everybody in the club knows that the hardware store has an account, you might want to limit who can charge at the hardware store then.
Oh yeah, they only have certain names of people
Okay,
that are
okay, yeah.
authorized. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we have accounts at most of ours are printing. We have an account at the printer and things like that. But they give them a receipt when they, do the transaction, and I'll get a bill from the printer monthly. But that's short term. That's not really. Most of you have probably done this, but I'm just gonna go through and pay my bill for international right now.
Now, is your bank set up to do that? Do you have EFT?
So you can do it either way on this.
Because-
So,
Yeah, we use EFT. So
yeah, you can do both. So we own $58. Make a payment. Pay now. So you can do it debit, credit, or an e-check.
e-check. Yep.
So you don't necessarily have to have a credit card. And I've actually got them both set up in here. You just do this new account, e-check, and you fill out the, you know, um,
The banking information.
banking information and that kind of thing. But it really is nice to, it makes this really quick to pay dues and stuff, and rather than sending checks and
Yeah.
So now I paid that bill. And of course I'll print out a receipt.
Yep. Put that in your file. Month.
Pretty straightforward stuff. I wanted to show this is this treasurer ebook. Is available, and I will send you guys all this stuff in an email, some links and some more information. The ebook is really thorough on you know, all this we discussed tonight, plus more. So, you know, and like I said, my club, we used to, when it came to dues, we used to, the secretary used to send out the due statements, and it got to where it turned into a hassle because I keep a spreadsheet of everything that, you know, who's paid, who hasn't, and everything else. I just started doing the dues myself. It made things simpler. It's up to you and your club if you want your secretary to do that. I also print, because the treasurer or the secretary can print the membership cards. I do it because our secretary is not as computer familiar as I am, because it takes a little tweaking to print those get those to print on business card stocks. So I do that as a treasurer, but again, it can fall either treasurer or secretary. However your club wants to do it, that's fine. Let's see, is there anything else?
I just dropped a link in the chat for it's a check printing software. It's called Easy Check Printing.
Oh, okay.
And if you know, with the pool and different stuff that we do here in Shoto, I print a lot of checks, or have to cut a lot of checks. This manages multiple accounts. We've got 5 accounts that we pull from on different things, manages all of them. And when I say manage, it has, you know, space for each individual account. You can have different check numbers and account numbers and all that. It makes life a lot easier than sitting and writing out, you know, 20 checks in a sitting. So highly recommend if you're in the same boat.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. I will resend that link out to both your links out to everybody in my email.
We're easy. I only write maybe 3 checks a month.
I'm jealous. We pay bi-weekly during the summer, so there's a lot
You
of
gotta do
checks.
payroll. You got to do payroll and that whole stuff. And so, do you operate the pool as a separate entity, or is it just...
It's part of our club. I would love to do it as a separate entity that is, you know, a sub corporate, whatever, you know. But no, we operate just straight from the club.
Just curious. Yeah, most clubs don't have that.
I think my understanding is we're the last, like, nonprofit operated pool in the state. I don't know if that's true or not, but
we have a pool here that we operate also, Sunburst.
do you? Okay.
It's in co-ops with the city.
Yeah, our city owns our pool, like the land, but we fully manage it ourselves.
Yeah. We manage it, but the city pays all the employees.
Oh yeah, no, we handle all those expenses.
We do the pool maintenance, and all that stuff.
So just a couple. I want to push the convention in Havre, and we are doing this. We're repeating this in person. It'll be pretty similar to what we've been through this week and last week with these online trainings, but they will be in person. So, I encourage everyone to try to attend that. It's a lot of fun and interesting and things like that. And I want to talk briefly. I know you guys have heard most of these, the educational opportunities with Lions Club. We have um, multiple opportunities available in Lions to go back to this to for training. So this is the login. You remember login, and this learn has a series on all the club officers, where you can go in and do online training. So there are some basically there's learning paths. So there's club president, club secretary, club treasurer. A lot of this, I took this information, and I know Mike took a lot of his president information from this website. And then even in my mind, even more useful than that is the USA Canada Forum Leadership
University.
Lions University. So
Fun fact: that's not actually operated by the USA Canada Forum, because I reached out to them because they're one of my members is having trouble getting an account. I'm like, no, that's operated separately from us. That we don't manage that.
yeah, it's kind of interesting, but this is a Lions University. Basically, they offer you can register and take the stuff. You don't have to attend the USA Canada forums, although they're a great learning opportunity. Plus, meeting other Lions. I don't know why this started to be taking me to there instead of the home, but it is. Anyway, they have these programs. Bachelor's program is oriented towards club level stuff. So they've got basically all these courses and then some electives. So one of the electives is club finances, which is where some of this information came from. They're basically all videos, and then take a little quiz to go through. So they're fabulous. Well, and this level, I've done this one, and I've done the masters, which is more, it's district level. So if you're ever interested in doing something in the district, there's some great stuff that, decision making, ethics, highly recommend. To actually get the degree, you do have to attend the USA Canada Forum. But if you get a chance, I highly recommend these. I know Mike does too, and unfortunately, they're kind of wandered away from our immediate area for a few years. But we've had them in Spokane, Calgary. The last one was in Reno, and the next one's
Louisville,
Kentucky. So a little farther away, but highly recommend it, and even just as a resource to look at some of those. Anyway,
I'll just double back on that, Mike. If you go to the USA Canada Forum, okay, and you like the university online, go to convention or to the USA Canada Forum in Louisville, because every day they have at least 10 different types of training that you can get. I thought I knew a little bit about Lions as I was going up to become the president. I started going to the USA Canada forums, start taking those hourly classes, and I went, Christ, I didn't know anything about Lions. And I go every year, and every year I learn just a little bit more.
Well, thank you very much for attending tonight, and hopefully we'll see you at Havre and Louisville and a few other places. So
Alrighty.
everybody
Have a good evening,
evening.
gentlemen.
Have a good evening.
Thanks. See y'all later.